So today we are presenting our proposed strategy for MTechs for future plans. So we start off by getting a general understanding of what MTech's financial position and strategies for the future are. We understand from the case that MTech is actually facing very low profitability and also cash flow problems as a result of their vertical integration expansion and then trying to have presence in all of the textile sector in Pakistan. Because of that, it leads to many unprofitable divisions, and it's also worsened because of the high cost of business, such as the gas and the electric tariffs increased by 100% and 50% respectively. They also have problems converting receivables to cash, and in this year, they actually recognized about 3 times more the bad debts for the year. They also have written and mentioned that their long-term expansion strategy is actually to enter into the international market with high-value products. So we will start off with the financial analysis, and the overall financial outlook indicates a downward moving trend for sales and profitability, indicating poor demand and also the higher cost of sales. The next thing we want to look at is the current ratio, which actually describes how MTech is able to pay off its current liabilities given its current asset. And for the last 5 years, it has been decreasing up to 0.2, or as of 2017. MTech has decided to start selling off its assets, mortgage banks and restructure loans, sell off their business units that are unprofitable, and also lease out their premises to reduce the tax burden. So based on the current situation, we actually come up with this strategy to improve MTech's financial position. We are actually looking specifically at its cash flow problem, because in 2017 they have a negative cash flow of 48 million rupees, and also the 3 times increase in provision of doubtful debts, which actually indicates that there is a problem for MTech to convert its receivable into cash. And that's also due to the economic problems facing by companies in Pakistan that leads to poor credit rating. So MTech needs to manage its debts, as sooner or later MTech will be in a position where it does not have sufficient cash for its working capital and repayment of its interest. So the short-term solution is to sell receivables to finance companies. They'll be sold at a discount, but the finance companies will be ultimately responsible for retrieving the cash. We can start off by actually doing a cost-benefit analysis to understand whether or not MTech will gain a benefit from actually selling their receivables to the finance companies. And the long-term solution is for MTech to actually consider improving its credit rating system, and also request the low-rated clients to actually pay with cash or with a shorter repayment period.
We also did an analysis of the operational performance of the MTech, and we came out with these following insights. So the first one is actually we looked into the market and export, local and export market, and we discovered that even though the overall sales has decreased by 50% over the past year, but the total percentage of export sales has actually increased. So this is actually in line with MTech's strategy on switching from to direct to retail business model, and they would like to focus on exporting high value added diversified products. Next, we looked at the proposed suspended divisions. So in the local market, we can see that there are these divisions that have, when we compare against the percentage of total sales, we can see that the waste and leftover and printing screens divisions actually have very low percentage of total sales. So we propose to perhaps suspend them, and furthermore we will look into them in our strategies later on. We also looked into expenses. So we noticed that cost of sales items after MTech has actually downsized, raw material consumed and dyes and chemicals have actually decreased by 53% and 25% respectively. So these cost of sales items have actually resulted in an overall decrease of cost of sales by 49%. We would also like to highlight that admin expenses such as provision in the food has actually tripled, as per what Alvin has mentioned before. Next, we look at commission and employees impacts. So we noticed that the total commission per sales dollar has actually decreased from 0.31% to 0.16%. This indicates that there's a lower commission rates for the salespeople, and could probably impact the sales revenue because they are being paid on a lower commission. Next, we highlight that the number of employees during the middle of the year as a percentage of average employee over the entire year is actually a very low percentage of 38%. And this actually means that there's actually less than half of experienced staff remaining to maintain the daily operations in 2018. As a result, based on the operational insights, we decided to come up with 2 strategies to cope with them. The first one is actually to improve on the current compensation policy. So as what we mentioned before, they probably tried to downsize MTEX to mitigate the losses, but it resulted in the fluctuations in the number of employees during the year. So this could result in lack of experienced staff to monitor daily operations, as well as incur higher training costs. And there's also lower commission per sales dollar, which could lead to lack of motivation in the salespeople. So as a result, we recommend for them to improve on their compensation policy to meet the employee needs. The next strategy would like to suspend the underperforming divisions, such as printing screens division, which only makes up 0.2% of the total sales in 2018. And we also like to keep the waste and leftover division, which is the next lowest percentage of total sales division. We would like to keep it on the watch list, and we would like to examine whether or not it actually follows on with MTEX strategy as a one-stop solution for a textile industry. So MTEX should also move along and look into current consumer trends to see if there is any other up-and-coming needs that they can fulfill. We also can focus their resources into highly profitable generating divisions such as the processing division, which takes up about 13.9% of the entire sales in 2018.
In external analysis, we'll be using the Pastel theory and also the Porter framework to analyze the index company. In terms of Pastel theory, like political landscape, as we know that Pakistan is near to Afghanistan and is a Muslim Islamic country. Hence, a lot of buyers would tend to have no confidence in terms of the face of terrorist threat, and also there's lack of strong government in terms of supporting. Example, like there's no fair trade or convention to attract foreign buyers. Economic situation currently, the world is now facing a trade war between the US and China. So this is one of the opportunity for the MTEX company to go into the China market. Social factors is always affected by culture, demographic, age, gender, incomes, and also ethnic changes. And these are the large environments that will affect the change in terms of how the company will operate. Trends and the customer taste and like is always one of the key areas that we should focus on. We should test on the festive season like Christmas or Chinese New Year season. Income factors is always the factors that drive the economic growth, and this one will determine how the consumer buying power, and that will stage how much to determine on the demand and supply. Technological advance is always one of the good areas that every company should be looking at. As for MTEX, is committed in the most advanced technology to meet the customer needs. Ecological consideration, environment care itself, like MTEX company use water purification plant and influence treatment plants. This is to ensure the highest level of health and safety and approval set by the country and also by the WHO Health Organization. In terms of legal environment side, in Pakistan, MTEX company is always buying to the commercial consumer law. Next, we talk about industry analysis using the Porter 5 forces framework. Track on new entrants is always keep on to look out on the in-country and external country. There's always a potential threat by the new entrants, and also because of countries like China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, they are always providing a low labor cost, and that gives them a good opportunity to enter into any of the business. Strategic locations, as Pakistan, we know that it's near the Afghanistan. There's always a disadvantage in the location. unlike China, Vietnam, or Bangladesh, which they are much more further away from the starting country. Trade of substitution, fortunately for this, is not that many. But however, we still assess that there a possibility of the silk and the dry fit material that is part of the substitution to replace our products. Power of buyers. The strong sense of power of buyers is always when the buyer can push down the price, and to push down the price, every company will need to maintain a low cost per unit. Power of supplier. Other countries increasing the export at a faster rate as Antex, also in the Pakistan. Okay, in particular on carbon. As we know that all the Western countries, they are all very has good trends in terms of getting all the apparatus. Aspect of rivalry, okay, developing countries is always competing on production rate, okay, the quality of products, and also with the government support in terms of transportation and shipment and also the land transport. One good example is like China, they are implementing the One Belt, One Road initiative that is also to enhance the kind of business that people are doing. In terms of our strategy, like we are looking at, we have assessed that a joint venture in China is one of the strategies that we can think of, okay, because it provides really a good opportunity for Antex company. One way is looking at the One Belt, One Road initiative that is that China is looking at, and also currently the trade war is happening between the US and China. Okay, why we thought of this is because there's a great advantage in doing that. As we know that China is always providing a low labor cost that will keep the products in terms of low cost per unit, and also China itself has a lot of latest technology that covers can produce a lot of customer needs.
So the last part is the comparative analysis. So given by the graph here, we actually can see that Antex is actually one of the lowest and least performing in the Pakistan textile industry in terms of gross and profit margin. So the rank of countries that actually compete in the apparel industry, number one is China, followed by Bangladesh, Vietnam, and India. So we want to look into Bangladesh because it is one of the countries with the least developed country status, and because of that it has the duty-free market access and also reduced tariffs for developed and developing nations to enter into the country. It also has cheap labor costs. We also consider Vietnam because it has a large trading volume for textile, it's 60,000 over manufacturing firms, with the export reported to be around $31 billion in 2017. So the last strategy we like to propose is actually to outsource or to relocate the manufacturing to overseas. Because of the rising costs of business in Pakistan plus Antex strategy to go global, Antex should actually consider moving its manufacturing plants to overseas that to be able to lower down the cost of business, and one of the optimal countries is actually Bangladesh due to the lower tariffs and the cost of labor. Plus, it will be able to expand to Bangladesh textile market. So I'd like to conclude our strategy with this timeline of implementation. So we're actually looking at how the company can optimize internally first by doing its analysis, and then also to review its current policies. And after that, we'll be able to look at the further and future strategies that Antex has with countries such as China and Bangladesh, and to achieve initiate collaboration and to launch the joint venture. So that's all for our presentation. Thank you so much.